I converted my 911 into rear-wheel drive. On the last episode, I closed the vlog talking about how I would follow up with how I converted my 911 into rear-wheel drive. But before we get into the details, let's go ahead and talk about how I ended up with my 911. Back in 2020, at the height of COVID, I was shopping around for parts for my M5, and I was just kind of curious to see what the market was like. So I was going down the line of some of the cars I was interested in, and I came across my 911. I was very specific about what I wanted, and one of the main ones is to have it wide-bodied. And for the 997 platform, the only cars that were wide-body were the turbos, the C4, C4S, and the GTS. I didn't pursue the turbo or the C4S or even the GTS because I knew that I wasn't buying this car to just keep it stock. I knew I wanted to do some upgrades and have fun with it, because that's kind of part of my passion with cars, is to not just enjoy driving them, but also enjoy working on them. With that said, I came across this car and I got in contact with the seller and I closed a deal on my first Porsche. Now, why did I want to convert my car to rear-wheel drive? Having an all-wheel drive car has its advantages, but I wanted to improve the steering. So moving to all-wheel drive would reduce or eliminate the understeer. More of the power is generated on the rear and transferred to the front of the car, so removing the front diff will eliminate the drivetrain loss. Another major advantage is drastically change the weight of my car, and I'll go into more details about it. And the best part of all of this is, if at any point I wanted to go back to original, everything could be reversed. So I bought about 3.5 years ago, and everything was bone stock. I mean, the original owner kept it in great shape. The paint was original wheels, nothing was changed or modified. To my surprise, the interior was pristine. I mean, this car was either parked in a garage or stored away from direct sunlight, because there was no scratches in the interior, there was no marks on the leather or any broken pieces. The carpets on the floor were in great shape. They didn't have any stains. I didn't find any pet hair around the carpets, so that was a big plus for me. So I've worked with JDM cars before, and mostly the bottom chassis is pretty much bare. But with the 911, I noticed that the panels from the front bumper goes all the way to the back, and they are pretty much separated in different pieces. So removing each of the panels just to get to the diff, the drive shaft, and the transmission was quite a bit of work. Once I got my car lifted up, I removed the rotors so that I can loosen the nut that secures the axles. From there, I was able to disconnect the axles from the diff. I was pretty determined on keeping my car rear-wheel drive, so instead of buying a kit with the stub axles or the spindles, I just cut it out from the end of my axles and reused it for my car. There was a lot of work to get to the diff, and one of the things I need to loosen was the carriage for my gas tank. And once I got that out, I started moving back towards the transmission, and I removed some of these braces that you see just so I could get to the guibo and disconnect it there. I actually had to drop my transmission down a little bit so I could get access to the guibo, but once I was able to do that, I was able to remove the drive shaft successfully. I had a tough time removing the diff. These bolts on both sides were easy to take out, but it was the angle in which I was able to pull it out that gave me problems. With the use of a hydraulic jack, I was able to find the right angle and finally remove it. One of the things that I actually saved weight on was kind of a surprise to me, because I have a bigger diameter wheel, and it's much more aggressive than the OEM lobster forks, which are known to be pretty much lightweight wheels. But my 3-piece forged wheels by Clausen are actually 11 pounds lighter in total than my OEM wheels. One of the things I also took advantage of as far as weight saving is doing the muffler delete. So my car has 2 mufflers, one on this side and on the other side, The muffler delete mod was relatively easy. Just getting access to the bolts on the top was a little bit more of a challenge, but everything else was pretty much bolt-on. Instead of buying the delete pipes online, I had them made custom and also bought tips so that it could be a little bit more personalized for my taste. This job ended up saving me about 20 pounds each muffler, which included tips, so a total of 40 pounds. I'm going to weigh some of the parts that I removed from my car. This is the bonnet or the hood, which includes the built-in wing, and the motor and fan is also attached to this. This is my subwoofer, and then I also have my wipers, and these are some miscellaneous things that I took out from my car. I don't want to factor in the weight of this bucket, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zero it out. Let's go ahead and start off with the wipers. Put in the bucket. Add these panels in there. Add the intake hose. It's the hose for the wipers in the front bumper. This is the brackets, the bumper stops, and the wiper kit for the front bumper. So what is the total of these items? So a little bit over 5.2 pounds. I have the rear bonnet on the scale now. So how much does this weigh? 25.31. Next is the subwoofers. So let's go ahead and find out how much this weighs. I just weighed a few of the items that I removed from my car. So let's get down to the numbers. Out of the factory, my 911 C4 weighs 3,197 pounds. So just a hairline under 3,200 pounds. The heaviest parts that I removed from my car is the diff, the axles, and the rear mufflers. So there's a lot of weight savings on that alone. And then I wasn't able to weigh the GT3 wing that's on my car right now. So that kind of is going to offset the numbers just a little bit. We were able to find out how my stock bonnet and wing weigh, as well as a subwoofer box and all the miscellaneous items that are removed from my car that we just weighed. I'm also factoring the weight savings from my upgraded wheels. I also want to consider the fact that I did add items on my car. The hood, for instance, is 2 pounds heavier than the OEM aluminum hood. Also the front lip, the side diffusers, the rear diffuser, and some of these little things are also factored into the weight of the car. So with all the calculations, it puts me roughly around 3,000 pounds. So still a big difference from its factor weight. Chipping off 200 pounds is a pretty big savings. And I can tell you from just a driving experience, it is a big difference. Coming up next, I'm going to attend an event here in Southern California that I've been looking forward to. I also want to do an off-topic discussion of one of the new items that I have that will help me when I'm detailing my cars. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.